When Trump called me after the 2016 election to thank me for my support, I told him one thing: build the wall or you're dead to me. Well, America, we're attending a political funeral today. Did you know 63% of Republican voters said immigration was their top concern in 2016, yet here we are with absolutely nothing to show for it? In the next 15 minutes, I'll reveal how I predicted Trump's immigration betrayal, why the donor class is celebrating, and the real reason our borders remain wide open despite what 80% of Americans actually want. The media calls it the Coulter effect, when I publicly support from Trump and suddenly the entire Republican establishment panicked. But what they won't tell you is the shocking truth: Trump never intended to build the wall, not 1 inch of it. By the end of this video, you'll understand 3 critical things. First, how the exact same corporate interests control both parties on immigration. Second, the mathematical impossibility of Republicans winning future elections without addressing immigration. And third, the real reason Trump folded like a cheap lawn chair when faced with the slightest resistance. When I published Adios America, liberal heads exploded because I dared to state what's now obvious to everyone: our immigration system isn't broken, it's working exactly as the donor class designed it. Let me take you back to 2015. Every Republican candidate was spouting the same meaningless platitudes about securing the border while quietly assuring donors nothing would change. Then came Trump. I was initially skeptical, another New York liberal pretending to be conservative, please. But then something fascinating happened. He kept hammering immigration in every speech. The donor class was horrified, the Chamber of Commerce panicked, and Republican voters were electrified. Why? Because for the first time, a candidate was addressing the single issue that affects everything else: wages, crime, schools, healthcare, government spending, everything. As I wrote in my column after column, Trump's immigration stance wasn't just good politics, it was the only path to victory. The math was undeniable. But here's what no one's telling you about what happened after the election. Wait, before I reveal what happened in those early Trump administration meetings, I need to ask, have you noticed something strange about your YouTube recommendations lately? The algorithm is actively suppressing conservative content like this video. That's why you need to hit subscribe right now and click that notification bell. Think of it as your personal protest against big tech censorship. Plus, you'll be the first to know when I expose the next political scandal they're trying to hide. The truth about those early Trump administration days: total chaos. I had sources inside the White House telling me that JARD, and or as I call them, were actively undermining every immigration enforcement measure from day one. While Trump was tweeting about the wall, his son-in-law was meeting with congressional Democrats promising amnesty. While Trump was promising to protect American workers, his daughter was hosting dinner parties with tech CEOs demanding more H-1B visas. And Trump, he was watching cable news, obsessing over his media coverage. The betrayal wasn't just predictable, it was inevitable. Trump has the attention span of a fruit fly and the policy depth of a puddle. He simply couldn't sustain focus on anything that required actual work. By April 2017, I knew we were in trouble. By January 2019, even Trump's most devoted supporters couldn't deny it anymore. I've spent 25 years researching immigration policy. While most commentators just parrot talking points, if you appreciate getting analysis that's actually based on facts and not feelings, smash that like button right now. It's the only way to signal to YouTube that substantive political content deserves to be seen. Plus, I'll know you're not a snowflake who melts when confronted with uncomfortable truths. Let me share something personal. People often ask why I'm so mean about Trump now when I once supported him. It's simple: I'm not married to politicians, I'm married to principles. When someone betrays those principles, loyalty becomes stupidity. Now, let's talk about what I call the Coulter Veto. In December 2018, Trump was prepared to sign a spending bill with zero wall funding. Republican leadership had completely surrendered, as usual. Then something extraordinary happened. After I publicly called Trump a gutless president in wall-less country on my Twitter feed, conservative media exploded. My phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from congressional offices saying, "Keep going, it's working." Within 24 hours, Trump reversed course and announced he wouldn't sign any bill without wall funding. The government shutdown began. The media went berserk. And for a brief shining moment, it looked like Trump might actually grow a spine. What happened next reveals everything about how Washington really works. The Chamber of Commerce, agricultural lobbyists, and tech companies mobilized. Within days, they had GOP senators publicly breaking with Trump. Why? Follow the money. These are the same Republicans who claim to care about border security, while their campaigns are funded by the very industries profiting from cheap, illegal labor. Here's the truly infuriating part. Trump didn't just cave on the wall, he actually increased visas and expanded the very immigration programs he promised to end. While ICE agents were risking their lives enforcing our laws, Trump was tweeting about how we need more immigrants because the economy is so good. Translation: his billionaire friends needed more cheap labor. This wasn't just a betrayal of his base, it was a complete surrender to the donor class that he claimed to be fighting. The same donor class that funds both parties to ensure nothing ever changes on immigration. And that's when I realized something that changed everything about how I view American politics. I need your full attention for what I'm about to say next. This isn't just about Trump or Republicans or Democrats. This is about whether America remains America. The next 5 minutes will completely change how you understand the immigration debate in this country. You might want to take notes. The fundamental truth that no politician will admit is this: mass immigration, both legal and illegal, serves one purpose: transferring wealth from working Americans to the donor class. When I appeared on Bill's show to discuss Trump's failure, even he couldn't deny the economics. More workers means lower wages. It's supply and demand, the most basic economic principle. But immigration isn't just about economics. It's about whether we remain a coherent nation with shared values and a common culture. The data is overwhelming. Professor Robert, a liberal, I might add, found that increased diversity leads to decreased social trust, decreased civic participation, and decreased community cohesion. This isn't about race, it's about scale and assimilation. When immigration levels exceed our capacity to assimilate newcomers, we don't get a melting pot, we get a collection of separate communities with no common identity. And that's exactly what the political elites want: divided people. Easier to control, united citizens with a strong national identity might actually demand accountability from their government. Which brings me to the most important revelation about Trump's failure. Trump never understood that immigration is the establishment's most powerful weapon. It's how they keep wages down, housing prices up, and voters fragmented along ethnic lines rather than united by economic interests. When I confronted Republican leaders about this after Trump's cave, one senator's chief of staff told me something stunning. He said, "You don't understand. If we actually reduced immigration, we'd lose half our donors overnight." There it is, the honest truth that no one on cable news will tell you. Both parties are owned by the same donor class that benefits from the status. Democrats get reliable new voters who depend on government services. Republicans get cheap labor for their corporate donors, and American workers get absolutely nothing. This is why I called Trump's betrayal so devastating. He was supposedly the one candidate who couldn't be bought, who didn't need donor money, who would actually put Americans first. Instead, he turned out to be exactly what the cynics predicted: a con man who would say anything to get elected, then govern like a conventional Republican on the issues that mattered most. The Coulter Veto revealed something critical. Even when conservative media and Republican voters united to demand action on immigration, the donor class still prevailed. That should terrify every American who believes in democracy. In just a moment, I'll reveal the 3 steps that would actually solve our immigration crisis, overnight steps so simple and effective that the political establishment will do anything to prevent them. And I'll explain why neither party will ever implement them without massive public pressure. If you're finding this analysis valuable, now is the perfect time to subscribe to my channel. Unlike the talking heads on cable news, I don't have corporate sponsors dictating what I can say. My only loyalty is to the truth, however uncomfortable it might be. Hit subscribe now to get unfiltered analysis that you won't find anywhere else. So what would actually work to address our immigration crisis? 3 simple steps that require no new technology, no massive expenditures, and could be implemented immediately. First, mandatory e-verify for all employers. Period. No exceptions, no delays if you can't legally work in the United States, you don't get a job. Without employment, most illegal immigrants would self-deport within months. Second, end birthright citizenship for illegal immigrants through executive order. The 14th Amendment was never intended to grant automatic citizenship to children of people illegally present in the country. This could be done tomorrow with the stroke of a pen. Third, complete the wall, but understand that a physical barrier is only part of the solution. Israel reduced illegal border crossings by 99% with its security fence. Hungary did the same. It works when there's actual will to enforce immigration laws. The combined effect of these 3 policies would fundamentally transform our immigration system without requiring a single new law from Congress. The president has the authority to implement all 3 under existing statutes. So why hasn't it happened? Because these policies would actually work. And an effective immigration system is precisely what the donor class is paying politicians to prevent. People often ask why I'm so passionate about immigration. They assume it must be about cultural preservation or national identity. Those are important, but my primary concern has always been for American workers, particularly African Americans and legal immigrants who are most harmed by illegal immigration. When I was researching my book Adios America, I interviewed workers in plants, construction sites, and hospitality services across the country. The stories were heartbreaking. One African American construction worker in Georgia told me his wages had dropped from $25 an hour to $10 over a decade as illegal immigration transformed his industry. A legal immigrant from the Philippines described how she'd waited 12 years to enter legally, only to find her nursing wages undercut by illegal workers using fraudulent credentials. These are the real victims of our broken immigration system, not the wealthy donors who benefit from cheap labor, and certainly not the politicians who profit from the status. This is why Trump's betrayal was so devastating. He gave voice to these forgotten Americans, promised to fight for them, then abandoned them the moment he took office. The Coulter Veto briefly showed what was possible when enough public pressure was applied, but ultimately the swamp prevailed, as it almost always does. So where does this leave us? With a critical lesson about American politics: no single Personality, no matter how charismatic, can overcome the structural corruption of our political system without sustained public pressure. Trump's failure wasn't just about personal weakness, though there was plenty of that. It was about the overwhelming power of special interests to prevent any meaningful change to our immigration system. The only solution is an informed, engaged citizenry that holds all politicians accountable, not just the ones in the opposite party. This is why I'll continue speaking out, regardless of which party is in power. Immigration isn't a partisan issue, it's an American issue that affects every aspect of our future as a nation. In my next video, I'll explain exactly how the corporate media manipulates immigration coverage to serve donor class interests, using language and framing designed to confuse rather than clarify. You'll never watch a news segment on immigration the same way again. But before you go, I want to hear from you. What was your breaking point with Trump on immigration? Was it the first omnibus bill with no wall funding, the expanded guest worker visas, or are you still holding out hope that he'll deliver on his promises? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, in politics, as in life, actions matter more than words. Judge politicians by what they do, not what they say. I'm Coulter, and unlike our politicians, I keep my promises. See you in the next video.